Hi everybody, I'm Teresa. Thanks for coming back and checking out my new video. Today we're going to be doing some calendar DIYs with that very famous Farmers Market calendar. And today's video is actually going to be a collaboration with the Crafty Quinn. I will have her video linked in the description box below, so don't forget to go check her video out too after you're done with mine, of course. We're going to be making 5 different DIYs. We've got a reversible sign, one for autumn, and one for Christmas. Then I've also got an ornament, a nice little stand-up sign here and here, and an apple sign. And my other stand-up sign is also reversible. So really fun crafts to do. This collaboration kind of got me out of what I would normally do, so it was a lot of fun. And if you end up making anything you see here, please don't forget to tag me on Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe. And when you're finished, go check out the Crafty Quinn's video. Thanks, and hope to see you again soon.
Alright, so to start off, we're going to go ahead with a piece of foam board from the Dollar Tree. And we've got our autumn sign, which is from November, and then I'm also going to end up using the December calendar as well. I'm just going to go ahead and get it all lined up and cut it. And on this one, I chose to do the foam board because I wanted to be able to cut it just how it made sense, as opposed to trying to make the image fit something. So that's why I ended up doing the foam board. And I will say it is best to go ahead and purchase your foam board, if you can find it, is the black one, as opposed to the white one that I have here. But that's what I had. So next I'm going to go in with all of my little tumbling tower blocks, just to see, kind of gauge like where it's going to fit, because I am going to use that as a border. And once I do that, I'm going to just outline it, kind of get a little line where everything is going to go, and then I'll take this little L-shaped ruler, and I got that at the Dollar Tree too. I was shocked when I saw that there. So I've only seen it once in all the different trips I've taken. So I'm just going to use that to kind of try to get my line straight. I don't know about you, but I am the worst person at drawing a straight line. It doesn't matter. Ruler, no ruler, I just cannot make a straight line to save my life. So we're going to hope that it's straight-ish on here. So once I've got that all done, I'm going to put my mat underneath it to keep it from, gouging my crafting area. Take an X-Acto knife and just cut down that line, and do that on the other side as well. And so we'll just get that nice straight line, and now you've got a much easier space to work with. We're going to go in with the Waverly chalk paint in ink to make it black, and there you have it. It's black now. Like I said, if you can buy black and this is what you have in mind for it, go ahead and buy it black. So I'm going to go ahead with some glue stick to kind of fix it to the foam board, and kind of gauge like where I want it placed with my little blocks. And I don't know, I must have like measured out over the space or under the space. I'm not really sure how I ended up doing it, but it ends up not being the best size that it could have been, but we're just going to go with it. And then just to kind of help glue it down a little bit better, I'm going to go in with that spray adhesive that's from the Dollar Tree. That stuff is really, really good. I'm a big fan of it. And once I've gotten that all kind of glued down, we're going to go ahead and glue down the other side. So the other side, like I said, is going to be the December one. I decided just to kind of skip the glue stick and go straight for the spray adhesive. Find a good spot to put your sign. I'm going to try and see about, try to putting it in the middle. And just so you know, the more you work with it with that spray adhesive, the more wrinkled and wet your picture is going to get. I mean, these are from a calendar from the Dollar Tree. They're not some thick, really good weighted paper. The little ones on the back are actually much thicker, so just so you know. So after those have dried, I am going to be on the autumn side, I'm just going to put down this red and off-white checkered ribbon. It's pretty narrow. I actually got this from a value pack. It was on clearance at Michael's. Had a pack of, I think, like 5 or 6 different ribbons on it. So, and then I'll start placing my blocks. Word of advice, try to place the top and the bottoms first and then do the sides, or place your sides and then do your bottom, just because I end up, which you'll see eventually, and I end up kind of not having it be right. And then you also could think about when you're cutting your foam board to place it all on and then do your lines, because they end up where I do have to have some space in between. I don't mind the way it looks, so if you like it, you can make it intentional as opposed to by accident. Or if you want them all sitting flush up against each other, put them on your foam board before you measure it out and cut it. So here I go. I'm just going to glue everything down. I do end up doing the corners first and then realize, oh, I wanted to put that ribbon down at the bottom as well. So just doing my little dab of glue, sticking it down there, and I'm going to let it dry a little bit before I cut it off, and I'm going to put my tumbling tower blocks on over that. I do my corners first, and one thing you'll notice here that messed it up is I do this like whole top and the side, but then because I placed the side down first, you end up not having the bottom part be the same as the top. I made it work, but you'll kind of see why here in a minute. So I go ahead and cut my ribbon down, move that out of the way. This little table, I swear, it seems like I've lost more and more space every time I craft on it. Does anybody else feel like that? Like your space just feels smaller and smaller and smaller? So what I should have done instead of putting that block right there is I should have kind of looked and seen how it was going to fit before I glued everything down. Because what I'm going to find out is down at the bottom, because that side over on the left is there as opposed to, you know what I mean? It's like there's more blocks on the top part than there are in the bottom part. So what I end up doing is just going to space it out, because I am going to add a bow at the bottom. So I decide I'm okay with it. So then I glue everything down. And I think I do, if I remember right, I end up having to pull it up because I end up not, yeah, that's right. The side on what you're looking at, the right side, ends up being really gappy too. So like I said, place all your blocks down first. So I am going to just take my heat gun and just get those kind of off of there. It ends up being fine. I mean, it pulls up a little bit of the paint, as you can see, but you're about to put the block back on there anyway. So what I end up doing is I just put it down in a different spot so that I can make it not gappy on both the top, or the bottom and the side. Because I kind of have a fix in mind for the bottom, but I did not think of any way to make it look right on the side. So we'll go ahead and place our blocks. They'll be a little bit spaced out, but that's fine. And then we'll place our blocks back down on the bottom. So like I said, word to the wise, measure everything out first. So once you've gotten everything glued down, and I was like running out of glue at this point, I was like, I am not putting it back on the thing to charge. I am not waiting. I'm making it work. And they're all set in there. And then what I am going to do next is kind of decide to paint it. Yes, that's right. I'm going to go in with the antique wax from Folk Art, and instead of doing like a full-blown covering them completely, then having to go in and wipe it off, I just kind of dab it all around there, and I am actually really happy with the overall effect of it. If you feel like you get anything in too much in one spot, just rub it with another part of that little foam brush, and it's going to help kind of smear it around. It's a very technical term, smear. So I like it. Kind of ends up looking like it's almost a little bit burnt, and like I said, I really like the effect. So then at this point I'm thinking like, well, I need to add a bow, and then I make this tiny little bow and think like, oh, I'm just gonna put it down here, and it's like it's so cute and pretty, and then I decide it's definitely not wide enough. I'm trying to keep with a fairly consistent thing. So what I do end up doing, I'm going to put down a piece of Velcro. This is actually from Joann's. They do have it at the Dollar Tree. I was actually looking for the one from the Dollar Tree, but I could not find it for anything. And I'm going to go in with this ribbon. It's kind of the same thing. I think it's actually from the same pack, where it has that like red and like off-white brownish color to it, and I just stick it on the bottom with the Velcro, and I'm actually going to do the same thing on this side. And first though, I am going to make a little thing to hang it. I'm going to put it on the top of this side. No real rhyme or reason as to why on this side. And I'm going to glue it together first, and then you'll see in a minute I'm going to forget to glue it down, because why not, right? Why not forget to do something? So here I am taking my own, thought process here, saying I should probably measure this all out first. Make sure that, one, I have enough blocks, because I have another pack, but this was early in the morning and I was not feeling like going through finding some blocks and everything. So you see here, I just kind of discovered, I have to pick where it's going to be solid at, where I'm going to give it some space in between. I end up deciding to give some space on the sides and make the bottom and the top a little more solid. So once I've gotten that all done, I'm going to start gluing it down, and here in another minute I'm going to realize that I need to put down my ribbon. See, there it is. It's like, oh, nope, don't forget the ribbon, Teresa. So I'm just going to trim off the bottoms of that ribbon. I felt like it was just a smidge too long, so I'll just glue that down first, and then I'm going to glue my blocks directly on top of that. It's going to help kind of hide that ugly end that's there. And I thought it would be too much to put the thin ribbon on this side, so I figured it was fairly consistent enough with using the same pattern. So, oh, nope, that's what it was. I remember now. I decide I like having a ribbon there, but I thought that it would be too much with the red. So I'm going to just do this pretty burlap ribbon. It's a really narrow one. Same kind of thing. It's not the same pack, if I remember right. This one had nothing but burlap to it, and it's just kind of simple, just to add just a little something. And I'm okay with the little bit of the black showing up at the top. There's a lot of black in that, that print, so I'm good with it. So on one of these, I end up trying to push the blocks off a little bit to the side, because I want that farm fresh at the top to show, and just kind of think about that unlike me when you're measuring stuff out to cut your foam board. So once I'm done with that, I am going to add my little piece of Velcro on the bottom, because I do want that bow to be able to be moved back and forth. Whenever you're going to flip your sign around, you just un-Velcro the bow and put it back on. And I'm going to do the same thing I did to the front side, and take my antique wax and just kind of go over everything really light. If I got too much in one spot, just smudge it in. And again, it's going to give it that really nice looking like burnt effect. It makes it a little nice to give it a little bit of something. So there's my final product. There's the one side, and then there's the other side. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And on to the next one. I am going to first go ahead and go in with the Waverly chalk paint in moss on the outside rim. When I was painting it, I wasn't being particularly careful, because I know I am going to end up putting this calendar sign in the middle. And then I'm just going to kind of cut it down to size, kind of figure out where everything can go. And just trying to remember, I honestly can't remember the size of it. The inside set of that sign is a smidgen too small for that sign to go in. So, and I honestly thought I had cut all of this out of the film, because who wants to watch somebody cut a piece of paper? But apparently I did not. So you will have to suffer through this part. Feel free to speed ahead if you don't want to watch me cut another piece of calendar. So since I measured it out, I am going to go ahead and go in and just try to make sure that I'm not cutting off too much. I decide I don't really need that premium quality part at the top. It's cute, but space is, I'd rather have that full picked daily up there, at the bottom part. I'd rather have that. So then I'm going to kind of try to gauge on how much space I have on each side. And just measure it in. If you guys don't have one of these little cutting things, I definitely recommend it. Sometimes I even can't make a straight line even with this, but it's much better than me trying to cut something by hand. So now I'm going to try to see if it fits in there, and I need to trim it down just a little bit on one more of the sides. Again, please forgive me. This was early in the morning when I was working on this project. And I'm just going to trim it down just a smidge. You're trying really hard not to cut off the letters, not to lose them, you know, so you can still tell what it's supposed to say. And since this thing has kind of like an inset, and the wood on the all around has a little area for me to kind of press it in, that's exactly what I end up doing. I decide I think I can get away with not gluing it down. I am going to glue down that little bit of burlap ribbon, and that will help to keep it in place. And I actually end up deciding not to do the burlap. I go back to that red and off-white checkers. I was really into that particular ribbon in this particular morning. So I'm going to put it in as much into that corner and wedge it in as I can. I end up just using the backside of like my X-Acto knife to push it in there and get it down on with where the glue was. And I'm going to do that again, and I'm just going to kind of go across. Since I did not glue the page down, I decided I want a little bit more glue to try and hold it down somewhat. And then once you get it all where you want it, like I said, I wasn't happy with the placement on that one. I end up needing a little more glue, and I'm going to try, I think it was like it went up the edge a little bit too much. So once I'm happy with where it is, sometime today, I'm happy with it now, and I decide what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a bow. And I will tell you, I am like the worst bow maker ever. So just so you're aware of that, I'm not much for tying bows. It's a little sad, but it's okay. It's still kind of cute. So, and I'm going to kind of gauge where the middle is and give it a nice little dot on there where the center point is, so I know where to glue my bow. Add a little dab of glue, add your bow, and that one is done. Pretty easy on that one. I decided my tails were a little too long, so I do trim those down some. And there you have it. That one's all finished, and it's really cute too. Alright, next one we're going to use the back side of the calendar, and you're using the autumn, so the November one I believe, along with one of these little farm to table shadow box kind of things. I'm going to paint the inside of it red. And I'm going to tape it off. I want the outside rim of it to stay white, so I'm just going to go ahead and go in with some of this narrow painter's tape, and it's going to help me to not try to stay and be, crazy careful. Sometimes I'll just decide it's worth just taking my time and painting it. This was not one of those mornings, so I'm just going to tape it all down. And that paint is the Crimson by Waverly. And anything that you see here in the video that if I can link it, I will link it. If I cannot link it, I'll just list it. Like a lot of the Dollar Tree stuff, you can't find online to necessarily link it. So one thing you could do, you don't have to just like a bunch of strips like I did. You can actually do like one long strip and kind of wrap it all around. I think it did end up working like towards the end. I realized, it does just go all the way around. It would have been just fine to do it that way. So I'll go in, and I believe I ended up doing 3 coats total. I think I probably could have gotten away with 2, but you could just see just a little bit of the barn coming through. So once I am done with that, I'll put it aside, and just kind of let it dry. And I'm going to decided that I wanted to have a little something else to it. And I'm going to go ahead and paint these little pumpkins. Paint the stems first. And that is the Whispering Wheat from Folk Art. And at first I was like, I'm just going to do the stems that color and leave them alone. And then I decided my pumpkins on that autumn calendar were orange. So I decided to go ahead and paint them orange. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you what color this is because it is a mixture of different colors that I used for some of my fall and Halloween stuff. So I decided it needed to have a little bit of like a shadowing effect on the pumpkins. So I'll just go in with the Waverly chalk paint and truffle and the Whispering Wheat from Folk Art. And I lay down first the darker one and then go in over that with the lighter one. And then I decide my little pumpkin stems, they need to be green. I decided that the green would look nice over that, over the Whispering Wheat. And that was done with a moss from Waverly. And then here I am, I'm just going to remove all of my painter's tape, nice clean crisp edges, and I'll go in with my tiny little calendar print from the back, going in with that spray adhesive again, and then I will place it and make sure that you place it the right side up. I think I almost, on one of these projects, put it on backwards, so just so you know, it does not stick right away. You do have to give it a second just to dry enough. So I just was trying to make sure that I was in the middle-ish. Just hold it down and then you'll just kind of press it in. What's nice is on a surface like this, you can move it around a little bit. And then I do go in with just a smidgen of it that was on that mat just to do the edges, trying to keep it down. And my pumpkins are nice and dry, and now we're just going to place those pumpkins in there and try to figure out a nice little spot for them. And on this I am going to glue them down. I think I decided that I was going to do one on the bottom, and at first I was just going to do that one. Then I thought it would be kind of cute to have another one in there, so I put that in there at an angle, and then I decide, you know, that the pumpkin's a little bit too tall. It would block the writing, the farm to table writing. So I'm going to cut off the one part of it to kind of make it a flat side. These pumpkins were actually, I believe, from Joann's, but I know that they do sell them at the Dollar Tree. You might still have some in your stash, so, or you can always hit up Joann's. They're actually got a lot of this kind of stuff on clearance right now if you can find it. So, and there it is. It is all finished. I think that this is probably one of my favorites. It's really cute, really adorable. Next, we are going to use the Farm Fresh Christmas trees from the back side, and we are going to make a little ornament. So this is just a piece of scrap wood that I have that you'll probably see how I break it all down. It's from one of those like double tree, it looks like it's supposed to be like a napkin holder or something. I'm breaking them apart. You'll see it in another video coming up here before too long. And I decided I was going to use that as my ornament. And one side had where it was kind of like broken up, so I covered that one with the scrapbook paper, and then I'm going to go in on the other side with my crimson Waverly chalk paint. And we're just going to give that, I believe I end up just giving that one good coat. You know, the wood's pretty light, you can't, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. You can't see too bad, so. And one thing I would advise, if you do decide to put scrapbook paper on the other side, paint it first, then add your scrapbook paper. It ended up being fine. I mean, the scrapbook paper I use does have a red checkered print to it, so you can't even see if I did go over a little bit. And besides, it's really the back side of the ornament. So, and because I am impatient, I do go ahead in with my heat gun and try to get it to dry a little bit faster so that I can go ahead and add my little print on there for the ornament. And once it's dry enough, I will sometime today, there we go, I'm going to take my little print there with my glue stick, and we're just going to put that on there. Now this is a lot thicker of paper, so you can probably even get away with using your adhesive spray on this with not have any trouble. And then I, of course, decide I'm going to go in with that same ribbon I've been using on this, make a bow. Again, I mean, do not use me as an example for bow making. And we're just going to glue that little cutie to the top. And at first I was like, should I wrap it around? Should I do something else? So you'll see in just a minute. I'm going to glue it to the top, and then I'll make my little area to hang. Well, actually, I ended up making I was smart for a minute. I was going to decide to make my hanging part first. And at first I think I'm going to use this twine, this red and like twine colored twine to hang it, thinking like that would be cute. But then did I end up doing that? I don't think I did. What is it? I put it down, but I know I didn't end up using that. And then oh, that's what it was. I went to put the bow down and I decided I did not like that. So I just end up using a piece that I cut off from something else, and now I'll glue my bow on top of it. You can't even tell that it isn't like one piece of ribbon. It ends up looking really cute too. Here it is, all finished in its cute little cuteness. And now we're going to make a stand-up sign using our calendar. We're going to tape off the middle part, and this does come from the Dollar Tree. You can either use the white, the one with the white part in the middle, or the black. I decide I am going to use this one with the black. I think I have the white as well. They also make one that's kind of got like a kickstand in the back, so you've got a couple of different choices if you want to make something like this. And at first when I was going to make it, I was actually going to make kind of like a coffee sign, but I ended up deciding that I wasn't able to cut out what I wanted to from the calendars, and I didn't really feel like getting my Cricut going, making the lettering and everything for it, so I end up, you'll see kind of here what I end up doing. So still placing all of that painter's tape because I don't feel like trying to be particularly neat. What's nice is, since it is inset, you can just trim off any excess painter's tape that you have there without, scratching up the wood or scratching up the black chalkboard part, anything like that. So once it is all done, I am going to end up with that white paint you see there. I'll have it listed below. I have had that paint for a long time, and this one I do end up going in with 2 coats. Depending on how much you want to have it like that distressed look, you could definitely go in with 1 coat and then distress it, or originally I was going to do that. I was going to go in with the 2 coats and distress it, and you'll see in a minute I do a little bit with the sandpaper, but then I decided it isn't really doing much. This particular paint at least, is very thick. So on the back side, I am going to make this reversible, so I am going to paint the back and the front. I'm not real worried about being neat on the back because I'm going to go ahead and cover that up with some scrapbook paper. And I really thought that I had edited out a lot of this painting, so you're just going to do a good coat of paint. Don't worry about the bottom because obviously it's going to be standing down on the bottom. You're not worried too much about that. And I promise, guys, sometime today I'm going to be done with this. And I'm sorry that this video ended up being so long. I was just very inspired with this calendar and ended up making 5 different projects. I guess kind of 7 if you count the reverse sides. And I'll just sit that guy down to dry, and then again I do end up doing another coat. We're going to peel off all of our tape, and it left a nice little edge. You don't have to worry about it running all over. And then we are going to try to, like I said, I tried sanding it down, it didn't really work, so I'm going to go in with that antique wax and give it some distressing, some antiquing, I guess, if you would. And just doing it kind of along the edges, smearing it around quite a bit, because you don't really want it to look like a lot of lines, because that's, it wouldn't look like that if it was just distressed. And then once we're finished with that, remember to do both the front and the back if you're going to make it reversible. I'm going to go in with that honey one. This one's kind of like a weird size. It's not like the really little ones. It's got a not a medium, because I would never call that medium, but it's got one that's slightly bigger. So what I end up doing after I cut that one out, I decide I liked the bee off of the little one. So I cut out the teeny tiny bee that was on the miniature one, the tiny little calendar that's showing you the view of all the months. Once I'm done with that, I do go ahead and take in some Mod Podge, put it down, and I Mod Podge the little bee, and I'm just going to dab away the excess. And I'm going to go ahead and make just a little tiny twine bow. It's kind of like a finger bow, and I'm just going to loop around one of those edges around just to kind of secure it all together, and I'll put a dab of glue on the back just to hold it so it's going to keep the bow shape. I'll trim down the tail, and then I'm going to cut a couple of pieces from the little bunches on each side to make your tail. It's nothing technical, it's a really easy little way to make a bow. It's pretty cute. Once I've gotten it all sorted out, what I'll do is I am going to just go ahead and glue that down to the corner. I kind of thought like the corner was a cute little spot for it. And that side's finished. So on the next one, I am going to take my scrapbook paper that I have. You can see obviously this is from another project I used a little spot of. I'm going to just kind of like roughly cut it down, and then I'll kind of go in and just make a little crease, and then I'm going to just break out the paper cutter and give it a nice little trim to size as best as I can, since I'm just seem to be bad at straight lines. This one's not too bad because it's obviously a plaid pattern to it, so it gives you some lines to go off of. Once I trim it down one more time, I believe, I do end up, oh, and see, I'm going to just continue to trim it down. There we go, now we're set. And there's some area up the top because I trimmed it too far. I'll Mod Podge it down to the back side of this sign, and I believe I do end up going in with some of that twine ribbon here in a moment. Yep, see, we're just going to put it down there, get it nice and stuck to that side, pressing in on the corners. See, that side didn't have quite enough, so you're going to press in on the corners, make sure it's nice and on there. And then I'm going to do that twine colored ribbon around the borders. And I'll just do my hot glue down, and you're just going to press that down, get it nice and in there. You don't have to worry too much about it being perfect on the edges, because on this, at least this edge, because I am going to go ahead and go over it on each side as well. Kind of gives it a nice little border. It gives it a nice kind of more of it, gives it a little neutral tone, a little, you know, it's kind of going with that farmer's market thing, that very farmerish, I guess. Not really farmerish. I don't know too many well, I guess I don't technically know too many farmers, period, but I don't think I would know too many farmers that would have, you know, Dollar Tree crafts sitting around in their house. Maybe they do. Are you a farmer? Anybody on here? Any subscribers I have that have like doing Dollar Tree stuff and they have a farm? That'd be cool to know. Let me know. So next I'm going to go in with some of these little red truck ornaments. I'm going to take off the part that actually holds it, and I'll just glue that down. This somehow I ended up picking up a pack that was missing its tree in one of them. So what I'm going to do, just to tie this back in with the calendars, I'm going to take apart one of the Farm Fresh Christmas tree ones. I'm just going to cut out the little trees. I'm going to glue that down, and then I somehow deleted some footage, and I'm going to cut out the other tree. And on the very bottom it has like this little thing that says like trees, and has a different, it's got like pine, fern, different types of trees. So I cut that little part out, and I'll just take some Mod Podge and glue that down to the bottom of my sign, or not the bottom, excuse me, the top part of my sign. And just kind of lining that up best I can, trying to figure out where the middle is. And we'll have that little guy down there, and then I'm going to go in with some twine. I'm going to use some Mod Podge just to get it to stick, and use the back end of that paintbrush just to kind of push it down, or my fingers to push it down, excuse me. And I don't end up measuring it out at first. What I'm going to do is I'm just kind of eyeball it first, and then I will go in and trim it down with my scissors if I need to. And I'll just lay down, the best way to do it, just lay down a little layer of Mod Podge. It's not like it's going to dry where you can actually see it, you know, looking like anything. So give it a nice little frame almost. Yep, see, I just end up trimming it after the fact. Then I needed to trim a little spot. And those little scissors came from the Dollar Tree. They're little like detail scissors. If you don't have any, they're $1 at the store. They're really nice. And there that little guy is, but I of course have to go in. This was one of the bows I had made previously that I didn't end up using, so I am going to just give it a nice little bow, try to tie in, you know, all of these different projects together. And there it is. It is all finished and super cute and reversible. And that is it. There are all of my projects. Do not forget to go check out the Crafty Quinn with all of her projects. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let me know if you end up making anything, and I would love to see it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.